And obviously, hi there. So I'm going to say, let me put me down there. That's better. So from Milwaukee, hi Millbilly. Long time no see. Long time no see. At least 10 minutes. Magilla, hi. Nice to see you.
Yeah,
Back again this week.
I'm from north of Milwaukee, but nearby.
All right. Yeah. And Jerice, east of me. Yes, east. Even east of Gala Shields.
Or west.
Hi, Jerice.
Yep. Hi.
East and west.
And yep. But also Mr. Hoddenot himself swims the sharks. Is here
And
all the way from
Southwest
Australia.
Milwaukee.
Yes.
Very southwest.
Very east, isn't it?
No, I'd be southwest. Depends. I guess depends which direction you go, doesn't it?
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So,
It's quicker to fly.
Time-wise,
Straight to the middle.
are you on the back side of the zones or the front side?
Sorry, I didn't catch too many people talking at once.
From GMT, what's your GMT number?
Oh, plus 10 in normal times, yeah.
Right, so that's east.
But I that's not the short way. You gorillas just go as long as you can. Well, I go the short way. So the short way is southwest of Milwaukee.
Yeah, you're completely different.
If I go the other way, it's much longer.
Yeah.
But, we gorillas haven't figured out the shape of the Earth yet.
I know why you want that way. Is because it crosses over Africa on the way, right? So
that's my
drop in and see some family, So
association point.
That's right.
I hear it's yours too.
Right. Yes, it is. As you can see. So.
Yes, we became much more peaceful and herbivores.
Yes, true. Yeah.
So I understand omnivores.
And can I just say, Millbilly, I wasn't aware of such a tall mountaintop in Manitowoc. That's quite the view they give you from that spot. Is it a bit cool up there today? So.
Oh yes. Nice and breezy.
Is that Mount Larrabee or something, or Q-Top Mountain or something?
I'm in the flyover.
I think it's Mount Kilo.
Eagle 3.
Yeah. I like that statement.
Looks like the stages of evolution, but I'm not sure where it begins and ends. Yes.
Very good.
We also have an age progression.
Yeah.
Now I've got a question, Magilla. Did you hear Stacey Seabrook was in a chat with Speaking with Conviction? That's Diane and Jane, and he made reference to your presentation about the dog tracks. Did you hear what he said?
No, unfortunately, I haven't been that plugged in this week.
Okay, Mark, did you catch any of that?
I did. I listened. Sorry, watched the whole thing for. Was very, very good presentation. So, yeah.
And I mean, obviously, the bit that struck him particularly, I think, was the fact that one track that clearly the dogs didn't pick up early on in the investigation. It's while they're, it's something that happened one day. All of a sudden, one of the dogs picks up on a scent trail that goes straight to the back of Stephen Avery's garage.
Yeah, track 6, I believe, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Yeah,
that's what I've been hoping to get everybody to understand.
Yeah,
and I mean, go ahead.
I was just going to say, sorry, gentlemen, that it is fascinating, that particular track, and Stacey picking up on that point in that other discussion was very relevant. So.
All right. Well, I'll definitely.
Well, my question is, what did they do with her shoes before they gave it to Faust?
Well, I think Yours and I and Rule actually tracked this down. I'm sorry I didn't roll his R enough. Could you help me there, Jor?
Rule. Yeah, rule. That's right.
Yeah, and there is evidence in the logs that a queso officer was sent to pick up
Yes, I have the
the.
audio for that. Chris Wendorf is sent to the Hallbach residence to obtain the shoes. Jerry Pago leaves the command post, Avery property, to meet him halfway off the freeway. And Jerry Pago brings the shoes in.
Excellent. So Millbilly is also excellent on detail.
Oh,
So
yeah.
what we know about the shoes is that they were sitting openly somewhere in Teresa's home ever since she went missing, while Ryan and Scott Blodorn were living there. And we also know she had a cat. And we also know from the literature that you're supposed to be very careful how you pick out scent items to make sure that they're unlikely to be contaminated.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So it's very likely. And then from there, we think the officer had pretty good protocol. It's recorded. I think he put it in a brown paper bag. Can anybody remember that?
Yep.
I,
Well,
I can't.
you hear in the audio too. He requests evidence bags from the storage before he goes to the hall box.
Right. So it goes into, I think, a brown paper bag, gets carried to Sheriff Pago. And then Fauski receives it from Sheriff Pago, is concerned that the evidence bag is not sealed. And she takes possession of it and actually seals it in her car in the trunk. And from that point, we think it is sent secure. So the time for contamination was the time from Teresa's disappearance to the time they were picked up. The paper bags allowed contamination. And then when Fauski has it, they're pretty well secured.
This track 6, it ends at Steve's back of Steve's garage, the garage, sorry, the burn pit, and it starts in the quarry. Do we have an exact starting point for this track?
Well, what I see is Luth is tracing the same trail she had before, the day before, until she runs into a bucket. It's actually a square pail. I think it's a 4-gallon pail in the yard of the
That's correct. Yeah.
Redont deer camp. And from that point on, I think she decides that this overwhelming smell is more important than following the scent trail. And she goes to the berm, paces in the berm, looking for the outlet of the berm, decides it goes to the burn pit. And she's pulled off track at that point, and anything after that point is after she's been pulled off track by her trainer because of the existence of beer.
Okay. And when this is put together, let me just go back to this one. Yeah,
I don't want to make this a competition between Joris and Millbilly. They both seem extremely detailed followers, and I appreciate both of them a lot. So
yeah,
no competition here, man.
What I was going to ask though, who actually logs where the dog has actually been? Is that up to the handler to make up those dog tracks that you see?
From my understanding, every dog handler that was on the property was tagged up with the queso officer.
Yeah.
Yes, there was a witness, but the actual dog reports are highly varied. And the only one that gave us maps, which was at that point, I would say the best in class, because nobody else did, was Serafowski. Now, I've been told nowadays GoPro camera on the dog and a complete recording of the track, and the handler's reevaluation of the track is state of the art. And that's what Jeff Young would do with Zoe.
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, definitely the best evidence we had was from Sarah Fauske.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do
we have a known? Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, do we have a known direction of travel for the actual depositing of this scent track? As T-One's pointing out, is there any way of knowing what is the starting point and what is the end? It's just that you've got this track.
Well, that's the thing. They start at the van, work their way around the garage, around the trailer, go around by the barrel, then head towards Cuss Road, and they stop them.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. We had a restart midway to Cuss Road using the scent article. So we think the trail from Stevens to Cuss Road is related to the scent article. It's very worrisome what happened between the last known position of the RAV4 and Stevens' home. It seems like Loof changes tracks, is following other things, and gets pulled off for multiple reasons. On track 3, Loof is pulled off of Stevens' car, pulled off of the garage, pulled off of going after Bear, pulled off of Stevens' front door, and eventually finds this track to Cuss Road cul-de-sac. Mm-hmm. On track 6, a very similar thing happens, except even from the back of Stevens' trailer on the north end, the dog is trying to get, I think, to the burn pit and doesn't go to Stevens' car at all because that scent is stronger. Loof shows signs of air scenting, like there's a strong scent in the air that wasn't there earlier.
Now, could Loof have been, I mean, we don't know when exactly Faust gave Loof the scent article to start tracking them. Could he have been smelling Stevens' blood?
Stevens' blood?
Yes.
Yes.
Steven touched the van. Steven touched his truck. He bled all over his truck. There's blood on the back door.
Yes.
His blood. His blood is everywhere. Her blood is nowhere.
Right. So the one concern we have is that Loof was recently trained on human remains in a cram session, I'll call it. Loof also passed this cram session, but I think that Officer Fauske depended a lot on Loof's prior human scent training. So I think Loof was given a lot of scents that were unusual to Loof. Cadaver scents, blood, cremains. Solved a lot of puzzles during the month of October, but this training was inconsistent with the solid training Loof had on human scent training. So I think she could have been pulled off by any human remains, Stevens' blood, cremains in the area. And clearly this day there was a scent trail that she sensed all the way from the path to Cuss Road, looking back over the quarry pit.
Isn't that for the canine handler to distinguish between, if a dog smells blood or goes by the tennis shoes? They have to.
Excellent question. So when I spoke with Jeff, and Jeff's dog Zoe has been trained. He's trying to basically prove he can train the best dog in the world. Jeff is obsessive about this. He was an Army canine trainer, primarily concerned about improvised explosive devices.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you caught the Mammothon when I had Braun and I had a dog expert that works at the body farm.
Yeah. Well, Jeff was saying that Zoe, the problem is if you don't train them to give us different signal on the different trails, what they call scent discrimination, then they get confused during the trails. They aren't really fully trained. and it's up to the handler to recognize those things. And without the training exercises, the handler doesn't have a basis to understand the communication. So he stressed a lot the communication between the dog and the handler. So what I think's happening here is Fauci tried to extend Loof a lot in October 2005 with this training that used all sorts of scent trails, but it confused her about her human scent training, which she was an expert at.
I have a question. Maybe you guys may answer this. Why do you suppose they sent the dogs to Twin Bridge Road? We have the report about that.
Okay, there was a report of the RAV4 near there, I think. And
No, it was a van. Ladies stated that there was a van parked outside her residence.
Yeah, there was a black van, was it?
Yes, Manitowoc sent them there.
Right.
We're missing 30 pages from a dog report. So where else did they send the dogs that they don't want us to know about? Was it Tuma Lake? Was it the turnaround?
It's hard to know. I would say
Did they go to the zipperers?
the character of the prosecutor in this case is definitely questionable.
Oh, 100%. My question is really quick. Why is it such a delay in the time from when she's reported missing and they respond?
Yeah. Well, actually, I think she's reported missing
at 2:37 p.m. The call lasts for 15 minutes roughly. And right after that, the dispatcher tries calling somebody and goes to a different line. She was trying to contact somebody right after she talked to Teresa's mother.
Okay, so I think a lot of things happened on the 3rd.
Yes, the 3rd is going to set Stephen free because we have Stephen Avery stating that he left for Menards at 7 p.m. Chuck says 6:30. He gets off the phone with Jody at 5:46. The window for Colborn to talk to Stephen Avery is very, very small.
Yes.
And by the reports, they're lying. They talked to Stephen Avery about 6 o'clock. Why did they wait 3 hours to go to Zippers?
Okay, let's just back up a little bit. In order to make a case in court, we have to fully argue from evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Working theories can use a lot of things that are not strong evidence.
But why are they lying about the time that Karen Hallbach reported her missing? They say she called at 5 o'clock. That's a fucking lie. They're lying on search warrants all the time.
Well, I think I've seen some of what you wrote about the stress between Scott Blodorn reporting her so late, and then there's a discrepancy in the time the Hallbachs claimed they thought it was. But both of them are working from a position of trying to cover their own guilt. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean guilt legally, but not paying attention to your daughter going missing or your roommate going missing is creating a lot of pressure.
There wasn't a proper victimology done. We don't know Teresa Hallbach. No. They squeaky clean pictured her, church girl, volleyball coach. I mean,
well, those are some of the facades she wore. She was
what about the fact that she was taking pornographic pictures in the studio, just like Tom Pierce was too?
Well, I mean, she was also becoming sexually of age.
Yep.
She was looking for a mate. She was experimenting with some people. Yep. I mean, she's a complicated character. I think all those things for the age she was are appropriate. I mean, and she's also extremely smart. I mean, she didn't.
How unlikely would it be that she may have had the same fate as Carmen Butwell?
I've actually looked into Carmen a lot, actually at the request of some people who knew her very well. There's probably a very dirty story about Carmen. that probably ties into the person they called the Candy Man down in Manitowoc, who was prescribing for 17. It's either 17 or 19 years. You may have followed it better than me, Millbilly. But there was a man who was accused of overprescribing painkillers out of a hospital in Manitowoc City.
It happened right here in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin. It's all over the state.
Well, it is, but this is a specific person who actually ties into Manitowoc County personnel at the police station.
And it's just strange that
It's Remaker, right?
90% of the officers that are involved in this case are from the drug squad.
Well,
Remaker runs the drug metro squad now.
he actually, I think, had a big role then.
Yeah.
Is
I've had talks with locals that have had run-ins with these officers and became informants.
So what I
Shady.
do know is that that there was a person associated with Carmen from Sheboygan who seemed to be involved in the prescription drug train out of a hospital in Manitowoc City, that they were concerned about district attorneys in Manitowoc pressuring Carmen into basically giving them up.
That's why there's one audio clip in Queso, the first time we ever hear Uyghur chime in anywhere. He's asking the dispatcher to run a Bobby Brown. I don't know if there's anything connected with this, but it might.
I think the name is actually known. On Reddit, I ran this down a lot. I was actually contacted by some people in the area that are very concerned, especially concerned that Carmen has been played to the press as just a drug addict.
Mm-hmm.
When she was actually recovering, and the some district attorney was pressuring her into flipping on someone. And one theory of Teresa's death is that she was mistaken for Carmen by people trying to assassinate Carmen. And Carmen was assassinated a few days later. Apparently, at a bar, drinking heavily, she could have been slipped methadone. Methadone and alcohol are a very deadly mix.
Oh, it's a death sentence.
And somebody got her out of the bar back to her apartment, which was near her grandmother.
She lives right upstairs.
Right. There's some evidence given by someone that Carmen was partying in that apartment, but that's questionable. Going back near your grandmother to do methadone and alcohol is very questionable.
It's a possibility she took something that she thought it was something else, but it wasn't. Never know. We don't.
At the time, blowing up this pharmaceutical drug ring would have been a very big thing in the area.
Well, there's still there's other cases in Manitowoc that they won't release documents for, like the Martinez case.
Oh, sure, the Martinez case. So we can. What I'd say is these are all great things for working theories, but the only thing that's going to help us in court is what we can argue from the evidence.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons I focused on the scent dog evidence is it's in evidence in this case, and it can give us a lot of direct information. Remaker, I think, is heavily involved in this drug case.
You know what my theory is? They found her body on Cuss Road. They removed it with an ambulance, took it to the funeral home, cremated it, and brought it back 2 days later.
Okay, and what the scent dog evidence shows is that somebody probably buried the cremains at Cuss Road at the suspected burial site. I think what's making you think that Teresa was abducted there was an original position that Zellner took based on not realizing that Loop had been trained on cremains. She thought that the burial site had to have been a temporary site of the body being buried.
It just bothers me that the dogs go from that burial site all the way through the deer camp on the conveyor road onto Q. What were they tracking?
Well, my best estimate from when the tracks appeared is that Roof, after being trained on cremains and body remains, was tracking that, and those were the fresh tracks. George is an expert on the discoveries in County Quarry, which occurred after that point, and they are very likely human cremains from that site.
Oh,
I
and there's
also,
where I connected it, the Millbilly theory, because they were found on the 9th when Sipple called in.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very curious about that cadaver dog that hit on that concrete pile, because that's really suspicious there.
Mm-hmm.
now, that's
Really?
also suspicious anytime they've omitted photographs.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I tried once again foiling these crossroad pictures, but it's just if it was just a white plastic peat moss back like they said it was, why didn't you just show those pictures? I
You know,
mean,
Colbert and Link are the ones that dug that up, according to Queso.
Right. So
yeah,
there's a sergeant who recorded that in a standard report that they came up from searching and probably planting evidence at Stephen's house. Uh, got involved in the digging. It looks to me like Kratz covered it up, and this is something Doris dug up. But the testimony by what is it, Ertl?
Mm-hmm.
Ertl sort of purposely avoids talking who actually did much digging. I suspect that Ertl examined the top of the burial site that was suspicious and was brought back in after the dirt had been removed to see the peat moss bag. Now
yeah,
he didn't look, he didn't examine the dirt that had been excavated. We know the dogs came in, alerted on the dirt and the shovel, and then later differentiated it to just the dirt.
Yep. And Manitowoc is the one that requested that shovel to be brought in by Mr. Bushman.
I feel like that's proof. Well, yeah, keep this all under our control for sure. That's happening. But what I think's happening is they blew it.
It bothers me that they scratched out Jacob's name on that sign in, sign out sheet for Cuss Road.
Okay,
And you hear Bushman saying there's a Manitowoc officer sitting at the end of Cuss Road, but I don't know who's sitting in it.
right. So the checkpoints are all suspicious. I don't know if you've ever programmed a time and attendance system, but I have. And
I've,
there's
I've
usually
been
a lot
all
of
over
ways
this.
to escape a site without going through the
I've
checkpoint.
gone through case reports and matched it up with audio. For most part, everything is right. It's just when they comes to people's statements, they're
Okay,
truthful. They're just happening on different days. I mean,
so they're matching up yesterday's entry to tomorrow's exit.
like when they go to Bradley Check, you can hear all the audio about that. The officer being dispatched to Bradley's house, and then him notifying Dietering and Uyghur that he's there, and then they show it's all. I've gone through it all
Okay, so it actually works when
for
they're
the
not
most part.
hiding something.
Yeah, when you're not hiding something, it's legit. It's just when you get to certain aspects of this case,
yeah. Then there's a
why are
can you hear
things
me?
missing?
1021. That's what it is.
It's
Hole
what
on
they
the
won't
wall.
release.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so the big thing I did when I wanted to do this reexamination was really look at the evidence closely and see if we could deduce more. And it sounds like you're both very interested. Um, I think we're close to deducing something big, but I actually said this today uh, on Twitter. Is I still see a case with Bobby and with Ryan.
Michael.
And the police, and also the big thing is the police are they're responsible for most of the planted evidence and most of the lying in the case.
100%. They framed Avery, and what they did to Brendan Dassey proves it.
Well, what
I've
happened to
got
Brendan Dassey? So,
It was
so one of,
intentional. They intentionally did that.
Oh, of course.
well,
They had a thin
so
case, too little.
You look
They
at
need,
you listen to his November 6th interview. As soon as they question something he says, he goes along with what they say. He's very easily manipulated.
oh, I
And all the times they need to, what happened at Fox Hills is key to what he said on the first.
absolutely. So one of the things I've tracked is recently is Uyghur. So I think there's a opportunity with Uyghur. He was recently elected sheriff of Calumet
yep.
County.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, and now he signs off on all the goddamn evidence that we request.
but in addition, he knows all the evidence. Like he knows it like us. He can pretend he doesn't, but he does. If he's clean, he can be leveraged. And I've actually been examining the theory that he might be clean. A lot of people are. I know you're shaking your head, no, Billy, but actually, Joris gave me a good relook at.
Who shot her in the head? Clean?
yeah,
No.
Well, they thought someone had been shot. That was a bad interview,
Yeah.
right? It, and also, who was the senior person in that interview was the DCI guy
Thomas Fassbender.
who, in most cases, if you read the interviews, Fassbender showed Wiegert what to do, and in the last interview with the Miranda, Wiegert did everything. So Wiegert was being led into this by Fassbender. I totally believe that. And also, I think Wiegert and Fassbender planted the Hoodlatch DNA.
Yeah.
Everything else, I think, was planted by Manitowoc.
Can,
And
can I
Marinette,
just can I just yeah.
Manitowoc, Marinette, DCI, they're all in on it.
Go ahead.
Can I just say, we were saying earlier about the Carmen Butwell and the amount of people involved from the drug squad. Is that not simply just a sad reflection on the fact that drug abuse is such a big thing? That's just an observation, but I've a sort of general question here. And I apologise if I sort of asked this last week as well, but have we got any suggestion that Dean and Jerry ever looked at any of these dog tracks to figure out themselves? Because surely had that track 6 been presented at court, they'd have had a hell of a job trying to convict Steve of anything.
yeah. Well, I think they'll vet the evidence in a slow pace by Kratz, in a particular slow pace, so that they're overwhelmed with the multitude of evidence and reports and all
Yes.
that. They are not able to grasp it all. I think.
I think also beyond what George is saying is if you actually follow the hearings force the defense attorneys to respond. So evidence hearings are thrown at the defense team this whole time, and the judge is just consistently throwing out the defense argument.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so Jerry has actually been pretty open with me when I can get him to talk, but he doesn't know.
I got nowhere with him. He started answering my questions, and then he just stopped.
Well, there are times when he's getting attacked by.
I didn't attack him. I just asked him really simple yes/no questions, and he gave me a Kratz answer. Tiptoed around what I asked and didn't answer my question.
I think there's an ugly part of the justice system in our state is if the defense attorney's lying too much, there are ways for them to be brought down. And our state, unfortunately,
Well, I find it disturbing when I asked him a question and he referred me to look at queso.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, Billy. When I was actually in Amsterdam when I was
that might
speaking to
be
Jerome.
interesting to examine. He might have actually referred you to something to look at.
Yeah.
Um,
But what Jerry
he,
was saying though is he has to be careful what he can say because he's still going to be called as a
Yeah.
witness in this case
I was
at an
I was
evidentiary
I was
hearing.
asking questions
I,
about things
I,
that happened in
Yeah,
trial.
I think
yeah,
it's
It's on the
Jerry has
record.
had to move on. Has he agreed to accept the label of ineffective defense lawyer, and a little bit of him is withdrawn. But I've also seen where he really wants this thing corrected.
yeah.
He's continued to fight against,
Yeah.
especially Wisconsin State Crime Lab, where he's had other
If they were
cases,
given all the evidence, they would have had a better shot.
especially with that us. Like if we had done what we've done already, I think Jerry would have won.
I mean, we've all been looking over this for how many years?
Right, right. You
We've
longer than anybody, Millbilly.
I,
no, I wouldn't say that. There's a lot of people that have been doing this longer than me.
I think the five of us have a lot of experience. I, I think we do. Well put. And it's because it stinks.
Well, the thing is, everybody needs to come together so we can figure this out. It's
With
too
it,
much bickering within. I mean, and then guilters chime in too, just try to distract everybody from doing what their end goal is to get
Yeah,
justice for Teresa Halbach.
yeah, yeah.
well,
No,
if we could,
I must admit, McGilla, that's an interesting theory that as you say, Wiegert is, you know, I've often asked myself that question. At what point does Wiegert finally realise that Brendan is making stuff up to him?
well, we,
Did he ever
I,
figure that out?
I think we, like we've all heard, like the best people telling us how false confessions occur.
Yep.
This case is worldwide. It's a big case. Uyghur was green at that time. The ones who went on TV and started saying shit were Fassbender and Kratz.
Herman, he was there right
Yep.
there next to Pagel.
But Uyghur didn't go on TV.
Nope, it was Herman, Pagel, Kratz.
So I think there's an
They're
opportunity.
having press conferences every single day.
No, I mean through the what is it now? 14 years?
Through the investigation, they were having press conferences every single day.
I'm just saying
Yeah, but
Uyghur, who has stayed in law enforcement in Calumet and kept people. I'm sure there are people very interested there. He stayed able to be elected.
That's not surprising, though.
It's not totally surprising. In Manitowoc, where the $36 million were pending, everybody was staying in line, and they were running idiots against them. They were like controlling who even ran against them. So in Calumet, I think Calumet's mainly innocent. I think one of the problems is people are looking at police as too uniform a thing. And Uyghur getting reelected against someone who knew all what to attack, Calumet might be our in. The guy who ran against Uyghur or Uyghur himself might know that all these things that Kathleen Zellner's created smell right.
My view is that he absolutely does know. And when you're a sworn officer of the state, and you have a duty to the state, it doesn't matter whether you knew at the beginning or the middle or the end or whatever. Once you know, you know. And if you capitulate to the behaviour of others, then you're part of it. So if someone gets stabbed 9 times by 9 different people and you're the 9th one, it doesn't make you any less culpable than the first. And so I have no doubt that Mark Wiegert, just on the interview with Brendan, would have known as a professional police officer or detective at that point that what was going on there was wrong. And I don't think it in any way mitigates his culpability of bad behaviour because he may not have been the mastermind at the beginning.
They're leading him the whole way.
I mean, it's like once you know, you think this is not right, and then of course,
I don't
Magilla,
think that's simple.
Magilla, you said yourself that you believe that he was one who planted along with others, the hoodlatch stuff. Well, at that point, he's culpable if that was the only thing he ever did. So I don't give him any credibility at all. I mean, once you know, you know, and you're duty bound to be honest. And he's just he might have been an innocent Calumet law enforcement officer on day one, but very soon on he wasn't innocent, and he continued the charade all the way through to this day.
I think it was largely a DCI operation, and Mark was an asset for them.
Yeah, perhaps yes.
That's what I really think.
I think.
No, I certainly get the idea that
and you look at Fassbender's public, what's the right word, propaganda. I think Mark is perhaps a manipulated person. He was a senior investigator in a county that hadn't had a murder probably in his lifetime.
The murder didn't even happen in their county.
And he was choosing to bring in Wisconsin DCI to help him. We look at the interviews, and Fassbender...
DCI inserted themselves. Deb Strauss on the 4th.
But Fassbender is taking all the leads in the interviews before the Miranda warning.
Deb Strauss was there too. They're there when they pulled Brendan and Brian over.
Definitely should look at that.
I have.
I believe you. This man knows.
I'm certainly with you, Magilla, on the idea that yes, I'm not, as Mark's pointed out, everybody's culpable in this, but some are more so than others.
I think less policemen are culpable. We have a problem. Cognitive dissonance, and we associate too many policemen with each other.
Wiegert was controlling who and was on that property at all times. He was rescheduling people's shifts so the same officers would stay there. One of the officers had switched shifts with another officer that was supposed to be training the new guy, and I can't do that. He can't follow me. Why?
This is a police investigation, man. Things like this happen, I think. I mean, not everything we see that might seem sloppy or is something nefarious.
If
one of the dispatchers answering the phone is a trained canine dog handler. You hear in dispatch, the officer says, one of the officers he's talking to says, I think it's Chris. He ended up quitting too, Chris Wendorf. He says, I don't know why I'm out there. And the other officer says, I don't know why either. You're highly trained. He spent 6 hours out there. He kept them on the phones. Mm-hmm. Why is Sipple out there for 36 hours straight?
Well, these are the leads we need.
36 hours. 36 hours. How are you? Nobody.
How do you know that? Because of the crime scene logs?
Because he says it.
Because he says
it's talking to the dispatcher, and she was like, "Oh, how long you be out there?" He was like, probably tomorrow night. She was like, "What? You've already been out there like 20 hours?"
Yeah, it was in the quarry. I bet.
Yeah.
Okay, Mark? Hadna, you there?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. I think
I
you're
see
back.
you've still got that "We Get for Sheriff" banner in your front garden.
Yeah, there we go.
And another thing I noticed, the officer that was referenced them to go look in the burn pit, her statements are not true because what she says, the guy from B&M Waste wasn't even there on that day.
Okay, let's put it together. Let's attack.
I'm working on it.
Yeah. We're all here
I
together.
got to fact check everything before I even come with anything
Yeah,
because I don't want to
absolutely.
misconstrue anything, lead somebody in the wrong direction.
Great, share it.
No,
Good.
we got to argue from what we can prove is fact. In court.
Magilla, can I take it then that as this is starting to fall apart, there's probably that thinks that Uyghur could be one of the first one that says, yeah, he's like one of the weak links in this. When it's when fingers are being pointed, he's going to be the first one that's going to want to try and avoid having fingers pointed at him, and is more likely to be forthcoming with some of the intricacies of the case. Is that what you?
I think he's manipulated, but
Yeah.
there's one or two ways. He either corrupted or he was confused.
He's the one that put the search warrants out. He lied on those.
But
Also,
you wonder,
Read that day.
Every search warrant he drafted, and then who signs off for it? After Fox signed the initial ones, Kratz signed every single one after.
Yeah, I was going to say you've got the organ grinders and you've got the monkeys, haven't you? You know.
What's that?
Well, if we get back to Kratz,
Yes.
Could I just say one other quick thing in regard to Mark Wiegert is that you only have to hear how he was extremely defensive on the stand when pinned down on particular issues. He would go to extra lengths to justify his behaviour.
Yeah.
That's the behaviour of someone who's got a guilty conscience. So,
or he's being coached in a bad way.
well, maybe, but gee whiz. Doesn't say much for him if he relies on Mr. Kratz as his coach. So,
well, that's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because when he sent me that email on March the 2nd of 2017, he actually suggests, I suggest that you look up Ken Kratz's book. Ken Kratz is nowhere near the scene, and yet he's suggesting to read Ken Kratz's book. If you want to know about the case, he says to me, I am 100%. I have 100% confidence in the conviction. You might want to check out former DA Kratz's book. And I thought, well, gee whiz, Mark, that's pretty crass to suggest, try and promote Ken Kratz's book.
Yeah.
You would have thought he would want to distance himself from that,
They all brainwashed themselves.
Yeah.
Each other.
Yep.
A whole bunch of it.
Yep. I often wonder if sometimes when these people when they've told themselves over and over again, Stephen Render guilty, and they actually believe their own nonsense.
Yeah, you will. Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, guys, I'm not going to keep you much longer.
It's close.
Yeah, I'm. As I say, I'm looking forward to at the end of in almost exactly a month's time. What date are we at today? We're at the 27th, aren't we? Yeah, 27th. Yeah, the 25th of April. We've got this 12-hour. It's like a mini marathon, particularly for the dudes case. So looking forward to seeing you all then. Obviously before then as well, but. Just to say that it looks like we've getting a good selection of guests coming forward. And I did mention to you off air, and I would like to say that it was obviously great to hear from you, Magilla. Well, it was about 4 or 5 weeks ago, wasn't it, when you got back in touch?
Absolutely, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wish I didn't have to stay anonymous.
Well, I also got in touch with Fleetside, so there's another guy who you might want to talk to about the well, about everything to do with this case. And I mean, obviously his theory very much points towards the idea that there was no murder of Teresa Holbach. That
Oh,
yeah, it's just one of those things when you sort of look at the big picture. It would I get the fact that it would explain such a lot that we don't know. But anyway, listen, gentlemen, I'm going to say cheerio,
Well, just saying,
and we'll catch up with you.
the evidence we have been given paints a completely different picture of what they say happened.
Yeah, yep, yep.
I
I think it's
anything Capaldi said.
yes,
Bill, Billy, Doris, let's solve this.
yes. Well, but I think that is
It's
one
going
of
to
the
be
best things
solved
we do. Is to, yeah,
one FOIA
yeah,
at a time.
yep.
yep,
Step by
Amen.
step.
Keep FOIA for things because you never know when they're going to release it. Because I can remember back in 2017 or 2018, somebody FOIA'd for her journal and a bunch of other stuff. It was denied, and then 6 months later, it was released.
yeah.
Amen.
It's all about changing the verbiage, and then
Oh,
something
yeah.
happens.
For sure.
The defense denies. Before we know
Depends on
the
what.
defense.
It's easy to forget in the totality of this how, guilt's meant to be about beyond reasonable doubt, right? So
Yeah.
if you think about the narrative and everything that's going on here, if there was ever a case that there was reasonable doubt, it's this case.
One.
Yeah. Yes.
Let's
but
solve
anyway.
it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, gentlemen. If you'd just like to say cheerio, and I will shut up.
Yeah, right, Paul. Yeah. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks again.
Love
Okay.
everyone.
I
Yes.
believe Captain Crunch is British.
Oh.
And
No, we're on for the next hour.
Now, once we've sold the Teresa Holbach one, we'll get on to the real story of Captain Crunch,
Yeah.
won't we? Yeah. Okay, guys. Cheers.
Yeah,
Thanks
okay.
very much.
Cheers.
Jerry's
Cheers.
Millbilly.
See you later.
Pardon us.
Love you all.
Cheers. Bye.
Thank
Bye
you.
for
Bye
now.
now.
Bye-bye.